Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then this is a nursing channel for nursing school, nursing careers, nursing students, all things nursing related. So if that sounds like the channel for you, go ahead and hit like and subscribe below. So I haven't made a video in a little bit longer than I would have liked to. However, that's because my summer has been a little bit more busy than I thought it was going to be, getting ready for nursing school and all that. That is totally fine because today I had a really good idea for a video. So last week I went on a tour of this really big hospital and we talked to all of the nurses on all the floors, and they told us all this information about what their job is like, what they like about their specialty, the kind of patients they see, the kind of medications they give, what the hours are like. They really went into detail about what their nursing specialty did. And I feel like it gave me so much more information than I've gotten in the last 4 years on Google. Like, I would type in, what does a labor and delivery nurse do? What does an ER nurse do? All these things onto Google, and none of it compared to the amount of information that I got from these actual nurses. So if you ever have a chance to like shadow a nurse, go on a hospital tour, definitely take them up on that offer. It really gives you so much more information and gives you a better idea of what nurses actually do. You get to see it in action. So today I picked my favorite 6 that I saw on the tour. I saw about like 20, but I picked my favorite 6 and I want to share them with you guys. So some of them you may have heard of before, or you probably have heard of before, but you might not know the difference between all of them. And then other ones on the list you may not have heard of before, but it might pique your interest because it piqued mine. And I'm pretty set on labor and delivery, so for something else to be interesting to me, I don't know, it might be interesting to other people too. So let's get into this intro and then let's get into the list. Okay, so we are starting off with my personal favorite, exactly where I know I want to work once I become a nurse, especially since I took this tour and got to learn more information about this nursing specialty, and that is a labor and delivery nurse. So first we walked into this super huge delivery room. There was a nice big bed for mom. There was a family area with a couch that turns into a bed, a couple of chairs, and they also had this really big bathroom. And in this particular hospital, they had birthing tubs, and they said they don't like to use the tubs to actually let moms give birth in them, but they do use it to help progress labor. I found that really cool. They said they use it pretty often. So after we looked around the entire room, we got to look across the hall where the triage rooms were. And in the triage rooms, that's where moms go in case they are bleeding, if something traumatic happened to them, if they were sent up from the ER. It's basically the ER of the labor and delivery. So there are nurses in there deciding, is what happened to mom life-threatening? Where does she need to go from here? Is she actually in labor? Is it just false labor? What's going on here? So it's the first place they kind of go before they get anywhere else in the labor and delivery unit. I like that it included that fast pace over there in that area. I thought that was cool. And there was also an OR, and in the OR, I think this hospital had about 5, and nurses travel with their patient to the OR in the event that a C-section needs to happen. So you're kind of mixing up a bunch of 3 different specialties at least, and putting them into one for labor and delivery. The labor and delivery nurse said they also like to help with using different positions to help make labor more comfortable. They help mom walk up and down the hall. They use these peanut balls that help. They're like big yoga balls, but they're shaped like a peanut, and it helps open the pelvis so that labor can be more comfortable. They use a bunch of different tips and tricks to help mom through her whole entire labor process. They also read a lot of charts and a lot of vitals and all the monitors and screens to make sure that mom is doing okay. And that is what really made labor and delivery interesting to me. There's a lot going on. It was fast-paced. It included parts of the ER. It includes the OR as well. So if you like that combination of things, then labor and delivery might be for you. One of the nurses said something that makes a really good labor and delivery nurse is someone who can think quick and uses their critical thinking skills. So if you like the combination of all those things, like I said, labor and delivery might be for you. So next up we have mother-baby. Mother-baby, postpartum, family-centered care, all the same thing. And a lot of what goes on this unit by nurses is education and support. So you might have to educate the first-time families on how to feed the baby, wash the baby, change the baby, what signs to look out for once you take the baby home to make sure that everything is running smoothly and that they don't need to come back and visit the doctor. So if you like education and guiding patients along the way, especially if they're first-time parents, then mother-baby might be for you. You also do a lot of support on the mother-baby unit as a nurse. So sometimes births don't always go as planned. Sometimes the mom might not be ready to be a mother. Sometimes she might want to give the baby up for adoption. She might not have a place to go after she gives birth. So you're also supporting moms and families who aren't exactly where they would like to be after giving birth. So you might have to work with the social workers and figure out what to do with the newborn. And just being there for the patient and the families to make sure that they have all the resources they need and that they can leave in the next couple of days in the best way they can, I guess. So the nurses told us that the biggest difference between labor and delivery and mother-baby is that mother-baby, obviously it's in the name, they work more closely with the babies. So labor and delivery, you're really working with mom. You're trying to make sure mom is healthy and safe, and you want her labor to go as smoothly as possible. But as soon as the baby comes out, you're kind of sending them off to mother-baby. So if you want to work more closely with babies, then mother-baby is for you. They also give their first baths on this unit. I don't know if you guys ever saw on Instagram, but like they give cute little baby baths. They wash the hair. That's the first thing. That's the first bath that nurses give in the hospital. And some parents don't even want that. So you kind of have to ask them and see what the parents and families would like. So that's what mother-baby is basically about. A lot of emotional support, a lot of education. So if that sounds like something that you want to do, then mother-baby is a place for you. The next specialty I want to talk about is NICU nursing. So when we first walked on the unit, it was super high security. We had to be badged in. We had to wash our hands in the surgical sink before we could enter. And the first thing I remember after walking through the double doors is how peaceful and calm and relaxed it was. And I'm not saying it's boring, and I'm sure when something is going on with the babies, they're moving fast, thinking quickly to save them. But I feel like it always has to have that calm vibe, because you have to be level-headed to be able to take care of babies that small who can change so quick because they are so fragile. So I kind of like that vibe that they had up there. We walked into some of the rooms and walked by all of the rooms, and it was a little bit warmer in there, of course, because babies might not be able to regulate their temperature yet. So you want to keep it a little bit warmer than it is in the rest of the hospital. They also had their own pharmacy on that floor. So since the babies are so small, the pharmacist is the person who draws the medication to the exact amount, since they can only take so much medication. And usually it's the nurses who are drawing up the medication and cutting up the pills and deciding how much medication that the baby needs. But they want to have like a double checking system in the NICU. So first, the pharmacist will draw up the medication, and then the nurse double checks it so that they don't give any baby too much of anything. And they talked about how small the babies were. So my brother was a preemie. He was 1 pound 11 ounces. And I thought, like, I don't think anyone can get any smaller than that. However, apparently you can. One of the nurses said they took care of a baby that was 0.8 ounces. So I looked up what weighs 1 ounce, and a number 2 pencil, a regular number 2 graphite pencil weighs 1 ounce. So imagine a baby weighing a little human weighing less than a number 2 pencil. I thought that was really interesting. What else happened on the NICU? So yeah, the NICU was pretty cool, and there are also different levels of the NICU. So the highest is level 4, which is babies who need constant surgery and things like that. The NICU I was on was a level 3, and yeah, I liked the vibe that it had in the like the kind of calm, if you're a really level-headed person and you can stay calm under pressure, then my best guess would be that NICU would be a great fit for you. So if you haven't noticed, I'm really interested in women's health, and eventually I'm going to be a certified nurse midwife. So that's why I included those first 3 specialties, because they were really interesting to me. However, there were 3 more specialties that really caught my interest. And if you can turn my eye away from women's health a little bit, then it must be a really good unit to be on. So the first unit that's not women's health is the ICU. So the ICU is where we have all the adult patients. And if you have seen any hospital show on TV, if you've seen Grey's Anatomy or anything else, and you've seen the ICU in those shows, that's exactly what it looks like in real life. Like, it has those super big glass windows with the blinds on them. So yeah, it was really cool to see the ICU rooms, I guess. It is of course, a super intense floor. All of the nurses were intense, and not in a bad way, in a great way. Like, they really were passionate and cared about their patients, and you could tell that they were confident in what they were doing. The first thing that we walked by when we were on the ICU is the rapid response team's little office area. So the rapid response team is the people who run codes for the entire hospital. So if someone is crashing in mother baby, if someone's crashing on the GI floor, they call the rapid response team, and rapid response comes and they try to figure out exactly what is wrong with the patient. So it's kind of like they're the last resort to come in and kind of save the day. And they're all ICU nurses. It's a team of ICU nurses. That was super cool to me, to think that there were nurses so experienced and so confident in their abilities that they formed a little team, and they can run across the whole hospital and try to save patients as the last option, and go through all the things that might be wrong with them. That was super cool. So the rapid response team, all ICU nurses. Of course, it's really fast paced up there because anything can happen. Like the NICU, the ICU also has their own pharmacy and their own pharmacist, because patients can change quickly and they need to have access to that medication. On the ICU, the nurses told us that they have to move a lot of patients, a lot of heavier patients. A lot of people in the ICU just can't physically move because of their sickness or whatever is going on with them. So you have to be up for that. You're helping them to the bathroom and things like that. We saw this really cool gadget that can help lift a heavier patient, like up to 600 pounds, and one nurse can do it all by herself or himself. That was really cool. I asked them about code blues and how many they had to run every day, or if it was once in a week kind of thing, and they said sometimes they run 6 codes in a day, sometimes it's just 1 in a week, so it all really depends. So another thing they said was that you have to be very confident, and you get a lot of autonomy in the ICU. So you have to be confident in what you're doing, because the doctor may order something and it might not be exactly what you know your patient needs. So you have to be able to advocate for your patient and speak up and say, this is not what they need this kind of medication, and this is how much they need. Can we write this order? So it kind of takes a lot of experience to get into the ICU. That's what they say. But yeah, so if you like a fast-paced environment, if you think you're going to be really confident in your skills, if you like the autonomy where you get to make your own decisions and help advocate for your patient, if you want to be on rapid response, which runs all over the whole hospital, then the ICU might be for you. So the 5th specialty that really caught my eye was surgery. Now, when I say surgery, I'm talking about 4 different kinds of nurses. So they took us on the tour on the pathway that a patient would be going through surgery. So first we talked to pre-op nurses, then we talked to the OR nurses, then we talked to the post-op nurses, and like that. So I'm going to tell you guys in the same way. We started off with pre-op nurses, and pre-op nurses do a lot of checklists. They want to make sure we have the right patient getting the right surgery. You don't want to cut off someone's leg when they're just there to get a nose job, so you really want to make sure it's the right person. They said they asked date of birth and full name 50 million times to the same patient. You also have to be able to answer all the questions about surgery for the patient. If the patient doesn't really understand something, you have to be able to explain it to them. So you have to know the surgeries really well. You also have to be there to emotionally support the patient. They might be nervous about, going under anesthesia or just getting the surgery in general. So you have to be able to help them in that area. So after pre-op, we walked towards the OR where we started talking to some OR nurses, and they're also called circulating nurses, I think. And the circulating nurse, they said that they run the OR. They said they know the surgeon is in the room, but they actually run the OR. And that's because they are the advocate for the patient. So the patient's asleep. So the patient can't get up and say, hey, no, I don't want that for themselves. So that's the job of the OR nurses. You have to speak up for your patient. You have to be able to tell the doctor that's not something the patient would have wanted. She would prefer to have this, that kind of thing. You also are counting the sponges and making sure nothing is left inside the patient. You are also doing a lot of charting to make sure that everything that happens in the surgery is recorded. And don't quote me, but I think that they said the circulating/OR nurse is the only nurse or person in the room that's not completely sterile, because the OR nurse might need to leave, or the circulating nurse might need to leave the room to inform the families about something. So that's kind of the idea of what happens in the OR with the OR nurses. And then after you leave out of the OR, you go to the PACU, or the post anesthesia care unit. I actually saw a nurse in action. She was asking a little old lady to cough. She was asking her if she could move her legs. And in the PACU, they're trying to figure out if anything went wrong in surgery. So they're trying to catch anything really quickly to make sure it doesn't progress any further. So they stay in the PACU for a while until they fully wake up, and then they go, at least in this hospital, then they go to the ERU, which is the extended recovery unit. And in this hospital, they stay for less than 23 hours, and you keep the patient there. Again, the nurses are checking to make sure nothing went wrong during surgery. You want to make sure that they're recovering properly, that they know how to change their dressings, or whatever they might need to do to take care of themselves after the surgery. So that whole pathway through the surgery unit was really interesting to me. Some of the characteristics that they said would make a good OR nurse is someone who is very methodical, likes to do checklists, likes to double check things, very logical. That is what they said would make a good nurse in the surgery units. So if that sounds like you, once again, surgery might be for you. Last but certainly not least is a GI lab nurse. So of course I knew there was a GI floor in the hospital, but I never considered being a nurse who works in that field, but it was really interesting to me once I got inside. So the GI lab is essentially an outpatient clinic, but it's inside of the hospital. Well, at least it's inside of this hospital. And it's same day surgeries. So they kind of had some of the same components as the surgery nurses. You have to make sure that the patient followed all the steps that they were supposed to take before they got here. They didn't eat or drink after midnight. You want to make sure that they're there for the right surgery or procedure. They also walked us into the little storage room and then into one of the operating rooms. They opened the door. We could see someone's lymph nodes on this big camera screen. They showed us the tools that they use, which is this long stick with a camera at the end, and they stick it down your throat or wherever it needs to go to make sure that everything is running smoothly inside. That was pretty cool to see. They also talked about how their schedule is different from other nursing. So they work from 7 to 3, and they said if they get out at 3, it probably was a bad day. It was a little bit more busy than usual. So usually they get out 2 or maybe a little bit earlier. I like that it presented different kinds of schedules that nurses can have. That made it really appealing to me. So if you're the kind of person who 3 days a week for 12 hours doesn't sound like it's something for you, you could do 5/8. You could work 7 to 3, 5 days a week. And they also don't work on weekends or holidays. So that's a plus for that, to work in this unit as well. So if you kind of like something a little bit different than the kind of nursing that everyone thinks of when they think of nursing, then the GI lab might be for you. So this experience was really helpful for me. It gave me a real life idea of what nurses do every day and all the things they can be, all the schedules they can have. It really gave me an idea of what to expect when I become a nurse, and I hope that it did the same for you guys. It was a really helpful experience for me, so I hope it helped you guys as much as it helped me. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.